and welcome to the Football Philosophy channel. The terribly sad news came through on New Year's Eve, December the 31st, that the ex-United manager Tommy Docherty had sadly passed away. Tommy Docherty managed United from 1972 to 1977, and the year of 2020 it just seems to be one terrible piece of news after another. Obviously it's been a terrible year with the pandemic that's been sweeping the world, and Tommy Doc passing away actually on the final day of the year, December the 31st. It's just too much to take. Some of the famous players, United players such as Nobby Stiles and Tony Dunn, passed away this year. Lots of other great players of the past: Peter Bonetti, Ray Clemens, Martin Peters, Paolo Rossi, Diego Maradona. The list is endless, and to actually pass away on New Year's Eve was pretty poignant, really. If Tommy Doc gets up to the pearly gates and if he can run the team up there just from the lads that have actually passed away in this given year, I'm sure he'll be challenging for a title up there in no time at all. Tommy Docherty, he was born in Glasgow in 1928. He was 92 when he died, and as a young man he made his way in the game, starting off at Celtic. He only played 9 games for Celtic before moving down south, as you would call it, from there, even though he was at Preston North End. He played for about 9 seasons. He played 324 games for Preston North End, where one of his teammates was the great Tom Finney. He played many games with one of the true greats of the game, Tom Finney. And after Preston, he also he had a short spell with Chelsea. He finished his career with Chelsea. He only played 4 games for Chelsea before becoming Chelsea's manager. In between Preston and Chelsea, he played for Arsenal and played 83 games for Arsenal. As I say, as he finished playing the game, I think he actually was player manager for Chelsea for a short while. It overlapped. He started his managerial career in the early 60s. He managed Chelsea. He had about 5 years as Chelsea's manager. And then after that he managed Rotherham, Queen's Park Rangers, Aston Villa, Porto, and then Scotland. And he was the manager of Scotland for 12 games, and actually resigned from the Scotland post in December of 1972 to become Manchester United's manager. 1972, I was only a young boy at the time. I'd have been 14 when Tommy Doc took over the job as United's manager. I was a 14-year-old boy. United had been on the decline for quite a while. It was a rapid decline, really, even though it sounds like it's quite a while, 6 years. It's a rapid decline from being European champions and finishing second in the Championship in 1968. United then in 1969, they were in it was the European Cup then, not the Champions League. They were in the European Cup as holders and reached the semi-finals. So they were European Cup semi-finalists in 69, but slipped from 2nd to 11th in the table. And then for 3 seasons on the bounce, 70, 71 and 72, they finished 8th. And then to Christmas 72, so that's 72-73 season, they were languishing near the foot of the table. And that was when they sacked the manager, Franco Farrell, and Tommy Doc took the job around Christmas time of 72. So 72-73 took over. Mid-season, United were in the bottom 4 perhaps, and it just about kept them up. They finished 18th in the table, 18th in 1973, having been European Cup winners in 1968. It was a 22-team league in those days, and only 2 got relegated. So they stayed up by 7 points as it happens, but it was a tight one, and they only put it to bed with a few games to go. And as a young man, I thought, well, we've got a new manager now. He's kept us up this year, and I really thought we were going to go places there and then. Really did, and it was devastating. The following season, 73-74, having just escaped the year before with the new man in charge, that they actually got relegated. So United finished on 32 points and was second bottom in 73-74. It was the first season, by the way, that it was 3 teams that went down. It had always been 2 teams that got relegated. There was 22 teams in the league, and 2 teams went down in those days. And that was the first year it changed to 3. So even though they finished second bottom, there was 3 teams going down, so it wasn't even close, so to speak. He started to build a team in his own that he wanted, how he wanted United to play. He started to play fast-flowing, attractive football. He signed 2 wingers, Stevie Coppell, Gordon Hill. Stevie Coppell on the right wing and Gordon Hill on the left, and tricky midfield players who could score goals. The likes of Sammy McIlroy had already come through the ranks. Sammy McIlroy was a Busby babe, and then he signed Lou Macari from Celtic for £200,000. There was a story that Lou Macari had gone to Anfield to attend a game, and actually signed for Liverpool. And cheekily, Tommy Docherty managed to get hold of him in the game, and Tommy went there to Anfield to watch Liverpool's game, but managed to grab hold of Lou Macari in the stadium and get him to go back to Manchester with him, and signed him for United. So there was lots of funny stories that used to go on. He was a great storyteller, the Doc, as well. I'm going to come to something about that later. But when he signed Lou Macari, by the way, he'd signed 3 or 4. There was a few Scottish players playing for United, but he signed quite a few more. Lou Macari made his debut against West Ham, and whether Tommy Doc had a thing where he thought Scottish players were better than English players, or whether he thought, well, I don't know what he thought. It might just be a coincidence that a lot of the players that he fancied happened to be Scots players, but they did sign a lot of Scottish players, so much so that a lot of the young United fans in those days, they used to wear tartan scarves to the games, believe it or not. There was that many Scottish players, and on one given game, which happened to be Lou Macari's debut, the day he made his debut, they played West Ham at Old Trafford. Jim Halton, who they signed from Shrewsbury Town, a centre-back, 6'2", eyes are blue, big Jim Halton's after you. And I think he was actually 6'4", but 6'2" rhymed. Jim Halton was an £80,000 signing from Shrewsbury in the old 3rd division, the 3rd tier, put straight into United's first team, by the way. And before you knew it, he was playing for Scotland at the World Cup. And Lou Macari, a £200,000 signing from Celtic. And when I think back to those days and I look at the money that's earned by players today, we were buying players in those days for less money than a lot of players. Well, maybe not a lot of players, but quite a few players earn £200,000 a week and more these days. And certainly the £80,000 that Jim Halton cost, there's plenty of players earning £80,000 a week, not a year, a week these days. And that's what the sort of money that you were buying players for in those days. When we played West Ham at Old Trafford, there was Jim Halton made his debut, Lou Macari made his debut, and there were 8 Scottish players in United's lineup, which must have been a record, including the likes of Alex Forsyth, Martin Buchan, George Graham, Willie Morgan, Dennis Law. I think Ted McDougall played, and it was exciting times at United, really. But Tommy Doc made it interesting, and you didn't see what was coming when he kept us up. But he kept us up for 1 year, but got us relegated the very next year. And I think in this day, obviously with United these days, you couldn't contemplate getting relegated these days. If you was anywhere near the relegation zone halfway through a season, you'd be gone. But in those days, they stuck with Tommy Docherty. Tommy Doc, as I say, he was in charge for half a season, kept us up, then in charge for a full season, got relegated. I think in those circumstances, well, there's no doubt about it, in those circumstances today, it just won't be tolerated, would it? You'd be gone. But the Doc was kept on. As I say, they were playing an attractive brand of football. It was fast flowing, and if we could have imagined what was to come, The fans, obviously, I was a young kid. I was devastated that they got relegated. But the following season, the one season in the second division, which is the Championship as we call it today, United were champions. It was a ding-dong battle with Aston Villa. United won it with 61 points and Aston Villa finished on 58. 3 teams got promoted. Norwich City finished on 53 points. So it was quite a scrap all the way through the season, really, and it was dead exciting. Some of the places that United visited, dropping into that second division, Blackpool were in that division, Oxford United, Leyton Orient, Notts County, York City. Some of these smaller towns that United visited in those days, the local people didn't know what had hit them. They couldn't believe the sight of thousands of United fans. In those days, you didn't need a ticket for the game. It was pay at the gate. You literally queued up and you paid your money over the turnstile, and the turnstile operator clicked you through. So there was no crowd segregation as such. You knew which was their section and you knew which was your section. But if you wanted to go in any section in the stadium, you could just pay at the gate and go and fend for yourself, so to speak. There might have been some tickets for the best seats. That might be a bit different. But a lot of the stadiums were probably certainly standing behind both ends in those days, and probably on a lot of stadiums on both ends and one side it would have been standing and maybe just seats on like the main stand or the director's side, if you like. So for all the standing areas, you could just queue up, you could just pay and go where you wanted. So a lot of these small towns that United went to in the second division year under Tommy Dock, it was amazing. Thousands upon thousands of United fans descended on these little towns, and it was a sight to behold. It really was. I remember the game at Blackpool towards the end of that season with very, very fond memories. I was only a kid and I couldn't believe the sight of there must have been 2,000 United fans, at least 1,000, maybe approaching 2,000 on the pitch for half an hour before the game, with beach balls and footballs kicking them up and down, and it took ages for them to clear the pitch for the game to go ahead in the end, which it did go ahead, but it was just an unbelievable sight. Different things that went on. The teams from the bigger cities in those days, like Cardiff City and Sheffield Wednesday, I remember. I went to both of those games away from home. Still thousands of United fans. Still the situation that you queued up and paid to where you wanted to go. But there was quite a strong hooligan element in football in those days in general. So at these bigger clubs, if you like, although they were championship teams, bigger clubs in the championship, their local hooligan firms were waiting for our hooligan firms, and the aggro that used to go on in the bigger cities like Sheffield and Cardiff. Cardiff was like a war zone when I went to Cardiff to watch United play Cardiff, and Sheffield Wednesday as well wasn't much different. And Sheffield Wednesday, I just looked at the table, and Cardiff City and Sheffield Wednesday actually got relegated that season, the season from the Championship, as it was the second division as it was, and then United won the league. So United was straight back up. They bounced back up under Tommy Dock, and 75-76 immediately finished third behind Liverpool, only 4 points behind. And reached the cup final, got beat by Southampton. Southampton were the championship, the second division team, or the championship team, if you like. Southampton beat us 1-0 in the FA Cup final, and we finished third in the league. Now, in 75-76, I'd have been 17 at the start of that season. I was a young kid, and or a young man, if you like. Certainly, still a kid really at 17, and in my memory, because I didn't remember 68, United had won the European Cup only, 8 years earlier, but I was 9 years old and I wasn't really interested in football. It soon started, but maybe a year or so later I started actually going to games, and the European Cup win of 1968 was just before my interest in football started, and I didn't even see that game on the TV, let alone go to it. So to finish third in the title race in 75-76 and get to the cup final, was like beyond my wildest dreams. It really was. It was the highest finish that United had, third in the league, and it was the first cup final that they'd reached while I'd been watching United. So I actually was at that cup final. Getting beat by Southampton was a devastating blow, and believe it or believe it not, United had a homecoming, you know, like we did after we won the treble. And if you win like the European Cup these days, you have a homecoming with thousands of fans welcoming you back into Manchester. We actually had a homecoming for being runners-up in the FA Cup in those days. There was thousands and thousands of United fans, I'll never forget it, in Albert Square. And I was in Albert Square, and the team came out onto the balcony and was waving to all the fans. This is for coming second in the FA Cup. And Tommy Docherty came onto the balcony. He had a mic and he was talking. Everybody could hear what he was saying. And I'll never ever forget it, because I thought to myself, likely story. To me, just reaching the cup final and finishing third in the league was like I said, it was beyond my wildest dreams. And Tommy Docherty there and then said, "Don't worry, you lot. We will be back next year and we will bring that FA Cup back to Manchester next season." That was what he said there and then. We will bring that FA Cup back to Manchester next season. Lo and behold, the following season, United get to the cup final. They finish sixth in the league. Still more than happy with sixth in the league from what I'd been used to. And sixth in the league, and beat Liverpool 2-1 in the FA Cup final. It was the best moment in my life football-wise at that time, beating Liverpool 2-1 in the cup final. Prevented Liverpool winning a treble, which United were to complete for the first time for an English club many years later. So that was a great point. They wouldn't have completed the treble that day, of course. They still had to go and win the European Cup, which they did the midweek, but they were already league champions. So United beat Liverpool 2-1 at Wembley under Tommy Docherty as manager, and because that's what he was fondly known as all the time, Tommy Docherty. And to beat Liverpool 2-1 and prevent that treble was fantastic. United's team that day, Alex Stepney in goal. This is 1977. He was the one survivor from the European Cup winning team of 68. Jimmy Nicholl at right back. A young Arthur Albiston at left back, who'd only just got into the team because of Stuart Houston's injury. The left back who was injured. Brian Greenough and Martin Buchan as twin centre backs. What a player Martin Buchan was, and a great captain for United. I absolutely loved him, Martin Buchan. The two flying wingers, that was the hallmark of Tommy Docherty's team, really. We had Stevie Coppell on one wing and Gordon Hill on the other. And Sammy McElroy and Lou Macari as the engine room. And then Jimmy Greenoff and Stuart Pearson in a proper 4-4-2 that I loved. Loved it then, and I would still love it now. It was similar when we won the treble 20 years later, more than 20 years later, when we won the treble. And a lot of people say to me today, "Oh, it's all that, you can't play 4-4-2. So long as one of your two forwards works back when your team's under pressure, you can play 4-4-2. I don't care what anyone says. And lots of these formations that they use these days, it morphs into 4-4-2 anyway. If they're playing 4-2-3-1, two of the three, they always drop back. They have to track the full-backs. It becomes 4-4-2 really, with your number 10 is behind your number 9, and he helps out when you're under pressure. It's very, very similar. So you can play 4-4-2, and that was United's lineup that day in 4-4-2. It was a fantastic day. Just one sub in those days. I'll give David McCreary a mention. He was the substitute. I think he did get on for a short while near the end, and it was a very exciting game. Stuart Pearson put United 1-0 up after 51 minutes. Jimmy Case equalised for Liverpool in the 53rd minute, and Jimmy Greenoff put United ahead in the 55th minute. So the 3 goals were all scored within the space of 5 minutes. And United, as I say, United went on to win, and the homecoming was absolutely fantastic. Having had a homecoming for runners-up the year before, then they went straight back and won it. So that was only in the May. In the July, 2 months later, I mean, as a young man then, I really thought United were going to conquer all before them. I could see us. I had visions of us reaching Champions League finals. You had to win the league in the first place in those days. This day and age, you get in the Champions League for being in the top 4. In those days, you had to win it. But I really did think we had a team that could go and win the league and compete for the European Cup. But as I say, they won that FA Cup against Liverpool in May. By July, the news had broken that Tommy Docherty was having an affair with the physio, Laurie Brown's wife, Mary Brown, and United had to sack him. And I think the same thing would happen to Dave. Something like that was happening. And as a young man, I was absolutely gutted. I can't say how gutted I was that everybody loved Tommy Docherty. They loved the type of football United were playing, and really thought United could go places. But it just happened so suddenly. He was gone, and not gone obviously because of football reasons, but he had to go, and it was a devastating blow, and I was sick. And Tommy Doc, he didn't. He moved on. He managed more clubs. He had another 8 different jobs in football, including Derby County, Queen's Park Rangers, Wolverhampton Wanderers, Preston North End, who he'd played for such a long time in his playing career. He was the manager of, and a couple of 2 or 3 different jobs in Australia as well, managing clubs in Australia. It never really happened for him again. He had 8 more jobs in the game after leaving United, and the most he stayed at another club after that was 2 seasons. He never stayed more than 2 seasons in one job, and generally it was through getting sacked and not through resigning. So it never really happened for him again, and it was, as I say, it was a devastating blow. The way he'd got United playing the exciting brand of football, the fans were loving it, and that was that. Many years later, I was lucky enough to be invited to a function only at a restaurant in Manchester, the Teppanyaki restaurant, and I shared a table with Tommy Docherty. I couldn't believe how much fun he was, how welcome he made you. He was the guest speaker. It's only a smallish restaurant. There was probably 50 or 60 guests, and I was lucky enough to be on the top table. A couple of friends of mine who were mutual friends with Tommy Docherty as well. And I'll never forget being sat in a restaurant. There was probably a table for 10 that we were on. I was on the, luckily, as I say, lucky enough, I was on the top table. But Tommy Doc was at one end and I was at the other. And I'm sure he must have had to say to one of my friends, "What's his name again?" I'm sure he must have done. But he shouted down the table, "Ricky!" And I've gone, "Yes, Tommy." He said, "Is that nice?" I said, "It's lovely, Tom." He goes, "It sounds nice too." So he was taking a mickey, having the mickey taken out of you at dinner as if your table manners weren't good enough by an ex-United manager and a hero of many of the fans. It was a great moment for me, and it was grateful, and really enjoyed my afternoon there in the Teppanyaki. Another function that I went to, this is probably only 7 or 8 years ago, at the Palace Hotel in Manchester. The Palace Hotel's got a really big function room there. There must have been at least 200, possibly even closer to 300 people there. Dozens and dozens of tables, with 10 people to a table. And Tommy Docherty was one of the guests there. And there was a few celebrity guests that were dotted around the room, different tables. So as the compere mentioned each celebrity guest, they stood up and people gave him a round of applause. When he mentioned Tommy Docherty's name, Tommy stood up to wave, and it started to reverberate around the room, the old chant that used to go around Old Trafford. "Oh, Tommy, 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 Tommy Docherty." And it got louder and louder, and people started to stand up, and the room was full of people that were standing up, singing Tommy Docherty's name. What was this? 30 years perhaps after he'd been United's manager, more than that, more than 40 years since he'd been United's manager. I thought it was a lovely moment. I was certainly touched, and I can imagine Tommy was. But having said that, I can imagine he'd been to many functions where similar things had happened. So it probably wasn't unusual for Tommy Doc to find himself in a situation where that would happen. And because of that, I'm pretty sure he knew that he was loved and adored by many thousands of United fans, not just in Manchester, but around the world. Rest in peace, Mr. Tommy Docherty.